Hey, it's Mike from Go Cell Phone Repair, and it's time for the Thursday evening live stream where we do this every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And thanks for joining us. I'm going to get started here in just a second. We have lots to talk about. I'm going to try to get through a lot of these as quickly as possible. And if everything cooperates with me, I'll be able to show you some second camera stuff here. That's my plan anyways. We'll see how that works out. So the Galaxy Note 9 is supposed to be using a special new alloy. We'll see if that actually happens later on in the year, obviously, but we're hoping to get an official release date for the Galaxy S9, not the Note, but the Galaxy S9, during the Mobile World Congress this month, which most likely will mean that they'll say that next month, or February? March. So March, we should be seeing it come out. I'm a little ahead here by 1 month. So next month is the Mobile World Congress, and then probably in March or so, we should have the Galaxy S9 hitting the market so that you can go and buy one, if that is your preference, of course. There is going to be an option in the near future to turn off that stupid throttling mechanism that is built into your iPhone, so you can run at full speed all the time, and you don't even have to change your battery to do it. So you can get an iPhone, use it for a month or two, and have it at 100% of its performance capacity all the time without getting a new battery, because you know batteries start to degrade as soon as you buy them. So you don't want to have a phone that's 2 months old and it's not working the way it was when you bought it. So they're saying that will be an option in the future. Also, an application that will tell you if your ISP or service provider of any sort is throttling your access to certain website streaming services, you name it. We know this is a big thing. We lost one of the battles for net neutrality, but there are a lot of things going on that could kind of overturn that whole ruling. So in the meantime, what you can do is keep track of what your ISP is doing when you go to Netflix or YouTube or anywhere else where you feel like, hey, I should be able to use the internet at whatever speed I'm paying for, not just for selected sites. We have next generation augmented reality, which I'm really excited about, and I've been talking about this for a while, and I don't want to do it as I told you so, but I'm really excited to see that they're going the direction that I kind of thought was just the logical way, you know, the logical next step for us to see beyond walking around holding a phone in our hand, you know, because this gets kind of old after a while, and there should be something else that we could do with that. Also, I've got some new toys, so that's going to be part 2. You know, like I said, if everything cooperates here today, I will be able to show you some of those on camera. All right, so let's get it started. So first things first, of course, the Galaxy Note 9, and I probably said S9 a minute ago. What I meant to say was Note 9. So there are rumors that they will be using a new magnesium aluminium alloy for the Note 9, which is going to make it slightly lighter than it was before, while still maintaining its integrity as far as strength goes, because we know that with some phones, you have a problem because they get bent really easy, or they used to. So hopefully we're past all of that for the most part. And of course, if you see any of these videos where people are purposely trying to bend their phones, it's like, yeah, you know, at a certain point, if you put enough effort into it, you can bend your phone. And unfortunately, a lot of what we see out there for durability tests is not really scientific. You know, if you have one guy on any given day trying to bend a phone in half, obviously the amount of pressure that he can apply from one day to the next or from 1 hour to the next is not going to be exactly the same. So it'd be cool to see someone really taking a scientific approach, if they haven't already, you know, at least, and gone mainstream to where we can see it, that really shows, you know, all things being equal, what is the most rigid or most durable phone out there. When it comes to things like scratch tests on a glass, you know, it really depends on how hard you're pressing down on that instrument or rock or whatever it is that you're using, or keys, you know, razor blade that you're using to scratch the glass. So we want to give everyone kind of in my eyes, just an equal chance of surviving these durability tests. And we really haven't seen too much of that yet, and probably because they're not nearly as dramatic as when people go through that, I'm trying to bend this with my hand, so whatever. In any case, this new alloy is supposed to make the phone a little bit lighter. Not a ton, really, if you look at it. It's ratio-wise, they're already using it on their laptops, and it's not a huge difference, but I guess anything helps at a certain point. So Samsung, we will see. Let me go down here and open up my chat, because I have
not only a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, but hopefully a few questions to answer for anyone who happens across the stream at this point. What's going on? Real world review. We got Carl. I'm not going to try to mess up your... Oh, is it Laterno? I think it's Laterno, right? I actually know that one. I think I pronounced it correctly. What's up, playlist? Have not seen you in a while. Where you been, man? So what we're going to do here is hopefully see some excitement from Samsung, because as we know, Apple's kind of dominated the headlines and everything else up until this point, and that's typically what happens because they do all their releases at the end of the year. So towards the beginning, we have Samsung doing their kind of split thing where they do the S9 first, and then sometime in probably August, September, they'll be showing us what the Galaxy Note 9 is going to look like. And of course, they really kind of played things safe when it came to the battery on the Note 8, because of obviously the whole drama involved because of the Note 7. And by the way, I meant to show you guys something last week, and I'm going to attempt to do it this evening because I have this other camera on, and if it cooperates, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to show you real quick. Let me run over here and grab this, or reach over here rather, because I thought it was interesting that when I requested Samsung send me a package, and by the way, I know Nate had asked me last week whether Samsung was okay with returning a Note 7 for a refund, even though it's been, over a year since the recall started, and also because the screen on the one that I had was broken, and they were absolutely fine with it. The only catch was you had to know what carrier it came from and have the IMEI, which I didn't at the time. I had the IMEI, but I didn't know what the carrier was, so I had to call them back, and they ended up sending me out 2 boxes, so I still actually have an extra one. And let me see if I can get this out. You have to really, let's see if we can get the other camera on here. So I'm going to switch over here and see if this is going to work. You can kind of see what's on my desktop here. So this is a box that they sent. It looks like this, and it's got a little packing slip there on the side with all the information. You can see here we have caution, lithium ion battery, do not load or transport package if damaged. So they make it very clear that what you're sending them is dangerous goods. So these aren't supposed to go on airplanes, and you can see it's kind of insulated on the inside. It's reinforced, and then there's a secondary box here that you put the phone in first. So we pack this up all nice and tight, and then it has a big bright label on the outside and some cushion, some insulation, so that I suppose if something goes wrong with the battery in transit, that hopefully it doesn't catch the truck or van or whatever it is that they're transporting this thing in, UPS ground. So obviously it's going to be one of the big brown trucks, and we've got all this information here where it says damaged, defective lithium ion battery forbidden for transport by aircraft. So we know that that is a regulation. You cannot fly certain lithium batteries on airplanes, which is really weird because, when you think about it, you can actually, let's go back to this one. There we go. So you can actually take your phone on an airplane so far, as long as it's not a Galaxy Note 7, but you can't mail a battery to someone, and you can't mail a device that has a battery inside of it if it's going by air transport. It all has to go by ground, which is really confusing for me because I go to the post office all the time, and I used to send phones back and forth, and you really can't do that as easily. You have to specify that it's got a lithium-ion battery and it's going by ground, and that kind of just slows things down a little bit. What's going on? Hey, Wayne, good to see you. Let's see. Carl, we met. Yes, we met. Let's see. iPad Air 2 housings are so soft. Bends in those are super easy to straighten out by hand. That's a good point. When you think about the rigidity, if that is the word, on the frames, one thing that I noticed was that when we went from the bendable iPhone 6 and 6 Plus to the iPhone 6s, when those corners get dented, it's a lot more work to get them straightened out. So, especially without causing, obvious additional damage to them. So, there is a drawback to that, of course, for us as technicians, but for the customer, I suppose, it's always kind of a good thing when you make something lighter and sturdier at the same time. So let's get some of this stuff up here on the screen. One thing that I wanted to mention, which I thought was really cool. Okay, so you guys have heard me for the last couple weeks, if you've been here, saying that in my opinion, and just as a consumer, not just as a tech, but as a consumer, because I have some iPhones that I use and I have some Apple products, and I really felt like, one, it was wrong for Apple to throttle their devices without telling us, and then this whole discounted battery program is just like hey, how do we make something positive out of this thing that happened. We get people to come into the store, and it's funny because I always joke about how Apple doesn't take my suggestions. I always say, hey, you should do this on your next phone. And of course, why would they listen to me? But just kidding around, I've really been saying this for the last few weeks. What Apple should do is just make it an option. Let me turn my phone up to 100% and deal with the consequences of a depleted lithium-ion battery, because I think that should be my choice. And I think it's a good thing that they came out and said, yes, you know what? We did throttle the batteries. We're going to release an update probably sometime next month, which will allow you to go ahead and switch that throttling mechanism, whatever it is, off on your phone, which is awesome. Now, the underlying sentiment here is that we shouldn't have had to catch you in the act so that you say, oh, we messed up, let's do something to fix it. So, there's, in my opinion, my humble opinion, they're still in the wrong for doing this without telling their customers first. This shouldn't be, oh, some third party, someone else figured this out, told everybody about it, and then you say, oh, whoops, you caught us. Okay, now we're going to fix it. And at the same time, I do give them credit for coming forward and saying, yes, we did make a mistake. We shouldn't have done this. And here's the right solution. And that is, yes, we all know that when lithium batteries get older, they don't perform as well as they used to, but don't do something weird like making my phone go slow to compensate for that. Let me see that my battery needs to be replaced. I'm okay with that. I think most people are. I think anyone out there who owns a phone, any type of smartphone is thinking, I would like to be aware that my battery needs to be replaced. I don't want to feel like, oh, my phone's just slowing down, it must be getting old. I want to know that the problem is I need a new battery. And then you go out and get a new one, and everybody's happy. So, why they didn't do that in the first place, I have my suspicions. I can't speak for the company, but at least now they're finally coming forward and saying there will be an update that will allow you to turn that garbage off so that your phone can run like normal again, which is what we really expect when we invest several $100 to $1,000 in a product. I mean, it's kind of the least they can do, right? What's up, John? How you doing? Saj 007. That's funny. I was actually thinking about 007 a little earlier today. Let's see. Wayne. Okay, now I'm going to get confused again. Wayne, you are in Australia, correct? Gosh darn it. I keep getting you guys confused. And you've been here forever, so I've been meaning to do this for a while. Let's see. Wayne, you are now a moderator. And John Cassidy, you are also a moderator. So thank you. I appreciate your continued support, and the least I can do is make you a mod. And Harvey, are you out there? Because if you are, I wanted to say thank you, but I want to make sure that you're on here before I do. How come it took so long for this to come out? Didn't the update slowing down phones come out a year ago? The update slowing down phones, to my understanding, came out several years ago. So don't quote me on this, but I want to say it started back with like the iPhone 3G or 3GS. So they have been doing this forever. Why did it take so long to come out? Because someone finally had concrete evidence that showed what was going on. And that put Apple in a position where they had to do something to save face. So, they did it finally, which is cool. So congratulations. But, to deceive their customers for this period of time and just going on business as usual, oh, your phone's slow, you need to upgrade to a new one. That's kind of the sad part. So, yeah. So anyways, that's taken care of. And in a month or whenever the new update comes out, you should be able to shut off that throttling, which I'm very excited about. I'm happy. I have an iPhone 6 Plus, and I just want to use it for music, and I don't care about the battery. Personally, I'm always near something that will charge my phone. In fact, it's plugged in the majority of the time, anytime the battery goes below like 50%. So this is what I want to do. I want to be able to just use my phone the way it was designed to be used, and that's why I never update it, because I don't need updates on an iPhone 6. It's like how many generations behind by now. So props to Apple for doing this. It's unfortunate that they had to get caught in order to encourage them to make the change, but they did. So someone stepped up, and I would imagine it was Tim Cook, because they're giving him all the credit for it. Let's see, where are we? Yep, okay. Thank you, Wayne. I knew it was one of you guys. I saw you. I had last weekend. I was like, it's John Wayne. How come it took so long? Yeah, exactly. Western Australia. It's funny that they fixed the issue of random shutoff, and it took a year for people to realize that Apple was slowing down the phones. Yep. It was good for business people rushed out over to have the battery replaced, so not too bad. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Carl. It's everything that Apple does is good for business. I mean, let's face it. Anything that any company that knows what it's doing does is for business, right? Even when it comes to something like this, where they go, oh, you know what? Here, we're going to give you a solution to this problem. Well, obviously, if that didn't help them somehow, you know, in this situation, public relations, if it didn't help them, they wouldn't be doing it, right? If there wasn't a law that required manufacturers to do certain things that are good for consumers, a lot of them would not do it. Or if they were going to lose market share, or if they were going to lose the confidence of their customers or the loyalty that they have. So obviously, it's always going to be something that's good for the business. But yeah, think of how much extra business they got the last few years when people just said, oh, my phone is running slower. I need to get a new one. Let me go back down to Apple. I got to upgrade. It's time. And, you know, for a phone to be designed to only last a year, really, you know, realistically, it's kind of sad, you know, when you're dropping pretty significant amount of money on that device. But, you know, this is the future. I mean, phones are pretty much everything nowadays. And in fact, they're talking about phones, if you've seen this dock that Samsung has for their phones, they're talking about coming out with something like that for iPhones in the future, where your phone will actually be your computer, where you'll plug it into something and have an interface that's more like a tablet or more like a computer instead of a phone. Because, you know, if you look at the specs on a computer and how fast they advance compared to phones, it blows your mind, right? Let's see. Thanks for the links. No problem, John. Good luck with that. I hope those work out for you. John had asked for some links, and we got those out to him. Saj, do you think upgrading iPhone 6 to iPhone 8 is a good idea? Tell you what, guys. I'm going to do something here real quick because for some reason, where is it? Did I move it? Yeah. So for some reason, I put on this heavy wool sweater, and my heater kicked on, and I am burning up. So I also wanted to test and make sure my Post-it was working there. Whew, that is much better. Okay, so if I'm not covered with wool, I'm in good shape. Let's see. Upgrading the iPhone 6 to an iPhone 8? Well, you know, all things being equal, probably at this point, you know, you're going to gain a lot in features and performance. And the iPhone 6, as I mentioned, it's a few generations behind. So I don't think it's a terrible idea. I'm really skeptical at this point about what the value of the iPhone 10 is. You know, I can't see myself upgrading to an iPhone 10 because I don't, you know, I'm not really excited about the whole facial recognition thing. In fact, that's something I would not use at all. So beyond that, having an AMOLED screen or an OLED screen is a positive for me. But outside of that, I don't see anything about the iPhone 10 I love. I think going from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 8 would probably be a good move for me. You know, if I was thinking about upgrading, that would be my choice. And maybe there will be some sort of deals on it. I won't hold my breath, of course. But yeah, I think going from an iPhone 6 to an 8 you'd gain a lot in processing power and features. And of course, you'd be getting a battery that's you know, really designed to last longer in the first place. So I probably would. If I was thinking about upgrading my iPhone from a 6, I would go to the 8. Unless there's a really good on 7s right now. I haven't checked lately. Have you seen a huge increase in battery replacements at your repair shop? I'm going to say not huge. There have been some people requesting them. And, you know, I mentioned last week or earlier this week that the Chinese New Year is coming up on the 16th of February. I was actually corrected because I thought it was the 8th for some reason. So Chinese New Year is coming up. And when it does, you should have enough stock on hand for a few weeks out. You know, I said 2 last time. I think 3 or 4 is more realistic because it is a long holiday. So I would stock up on them. But I haven't seen the dramatic demand for batteries that I thought that we would have. So there have been people asking, but not as many. Now, at the same time, they're saying that at this point, a lot of Apple stores are running out of batteries. They just don't have them on hand. And a lot of authorized Apple service centers don't have the batteries on hand. You know, knowing that this update is going to come out, a lot of people might kind of hold off on that too. So I wish I had a better answer for you as far as predicting how to proceed from here. But in my experience, there hasn't been this huge influx of customers rushing in to get new batteries on iPhones. So not as many as we thought, expected at least. Carl says yes. So Carl, I'm not sure where you're at, but apparently in some markets, and that's the other thing, you know, it's always going to vary from one place to another. So it really depends. If you buy an iPhone 8, just make sure you buy a case or tempered glass for the back. Yeah, if you didn't already see real world reviews video on the iPhone 8 rear glass replacement, it is not fun. So here's a funny thing. I saw a video recently where someone, well, not a video, but some still images of where they had removed the iPhone 8 back glass and said that they had the process down to a short period of time, but the temperatures they were talking about working with were very concerning, in my opinion. You know, they're talking about getting this thing up to like 400, 450 degrees Celsius, and I can't imagine that being good for the phone as a whole, not to mention the battery, which is right underneath that metal panel. So yeah, put a case on it for sure. I have a friend, John Cassidy said, I have a friend that got an 8, and after 2 weeks it randomly turned off, and then she got a free replacement phone from Apple. The speaker on the new phone didn't work, so now she is on her third free phone. Wow, that's discouraging. And, you know, thinking about it, the one concern I always have about iPhones is that whenever they change the form factor, which, you know, the iPhone 8 wasn't a dramatic change, so I really didn't see it that way. Other than putting the glass housing on the back, it doesn't seem like specs-wise a lot has changed on that phone. But whenever there's a new form factor, there tends to be bugs to work out. And we used to see this in the old versions. You make the iPhone 4, they figure out what's wrong with the iPhone 4, and they fix that with the release of the iPhone 4S. And then, of course, when they came out with the iPhone 5, it had all its share of problems. And then the iPhone 5S patched a lot of the problems that the iPhone 5 had. So that would be my only concern. However, to have an iPhone 8 that's already been traded in twice, good to know that. I would be concerned. But I think I would still, if I was upgrading, I would go for the 8 rather than the 10. I think that the 10, the next version of the 10 that comes out should fix any number of problems that they've already found with that phone, and hopefully will be competitively priced, although, you know, really hard to say what they're going to do at this point. But we do know that the iPhone 10 is not selling, depending on who you talk to, what source you look at. It doesn't look like overall the iPhone 10 is really meeting the expectations that Apple had sales-wise, and I'm not sure why that is, but I suspect that the facial recognition is functional, but at the same time slightly gimmicky. So I think there's a certain number of people out there who bought it because they like the idea of the emojis and, you know, being able to do, you know, not have to use your fingerprint, but at the same time, when you realize you have to hold your phone up in front of your face, that kind of seems like it wouldn't be that much fun to unlock it. Let's see. I agree, 10 is not worth it for the features it brings. Yeah, and obviously that's subjective. There are some people out there who are really excited about the iPhone 10 and they love their phone, and, you know, to each his own. But I suspect that there's a large part of the, you know, of Apple's customer base that said, yeah, I'm not really concerned about talking emojis and facial recognition. So beyond that, what do I get with the iPhone 10? And obviously you can get the wireless charging in either model and save a little money on the 8. And you've got an LCD if you buy that phone, which means that when it comes time to replace the screen, it's going to set you back quite a bit less, you know, out of pocket if you had to go to a third party or perform the repair yourself than if you're doing the iPhone 10. So something to keep in mind. And one of the things that really bummed me out is when I broke my Galaxy S6 AMOLED, not the glass, I broke the AMOLED, and I still haven't replaced it because really dollar for dollar, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to spend $150 just to buy the part, you know, on a phone that's probably worth slightly more than that. Let's see, changing overall the small parts to the new housing could be an even bigger headache for the iPhone 8 than just doing the rear glass. Agreed. And they are talking about the next version of the iPhone 10 integrating the fingerprint scanner into the touchscreen. So I'm not sure what that's going to mean exactly. And obviously that can make things a lot more complicated if they go the same direction that they did with putting, you know, tying the secured enclave or whatever that is to the screen itself in a way that it can't be separated. Hopefully that doesn't happen. My next $1,000 phone purchase has to be revolutionary and not evolutionary. I like that. I'm going to steal that phrase. I like that, Wayne. Thank you. Hey, cheers, everyone. It is Thursday night, so I like to enjoy the beverage of my choice, and I encourage you to do the same. We are approaching the weekend. Okay, so next on the list, real quick here, we have this, which I think is freaking awesome. I don't know if you heard about this already, but just this morning, as early as this morning, or as recent as this morning, Apple had blocked, and they've changed their position on this already, but they had blocked an application in the App Store that would allow you to keep track of what your ISP was throttling. So we've been hearing about this for a long time. Anyone who's been on here definitely has. If you aren't aware of what's going on with net neutrality, I would encourage you to follow the links that I will be putting down in the video description. This affects everyone. This affects publishers. This affects people who watch Netflix. This is, it affects people who watch YouTube. It affects every single thing you do with your phone and your internet connection at home. So finally, it looks like Facebook and Google and Amazon and a number of other big companies are kind of jumping into this lawsuit. The FCC is being sued by a large number of parties in separate lawsuits. We have several states that are writing legislation to fight this whole thing. I mean, the whole idea of open access to the internet is, depending on who you ask, one of the freedoms that is guaranteed by the Constitution, and that is the right to free speech. So the moment you tell people that, hey, you can talk for free, but if you want to hear this other person, you have to pay extra money, that is in my mind, that is an attack on democracy. It is an attack on free speech. And here's what happened. Someone, this app is called Wehe. I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Wehe. This application is now available through the App Store and through Google Play. And what it does, it allows you to watch and see what kind of download speed you're getting from different services on your phone, or whatever device it is that you have the application installed on. You can keep track. You can go and look and say, okay, I'm getting Streamflix or whatever it is that Comcast is promoting, and now I download on Netflix, and I can compare those two speeds, and it will tell you what your download and upload speed are on different types of applications that you're using. So this way we can really keep track of, and there have absolutely been examples of where ISPs are already throttling different services. So you go to one service, you get one speed, you go to watch something else, you get a different speed. Well, there was an application that was developed to keep track of this, and the strange thing was that Apple initially pulled it from the App Store. Now, I think that at this point in time, when it comes to public relations, they're kind of in save face mode. Like, let's do everything we can to be the good guys. So they let the application come back to the App Store. They were saying initially that it didn't offer any value to the customers, which is like, really? How does that make any sense? But it is back, and now you can install this app, and you can keep track of the different types of download speeds that you're getting from different applications. And obviously, you do have to agree to the terms and conditions, and the person, the company, or whoever it is, the app developer is collecting data because they want to keep track of what's going on. And honestly, I don't care. I am absolutely going to install this, and they can collect all the information that they want, because I want this to be something that people know about. When I use this particular ISP, here's what they let me have at full speed, and here's what they're throttling, or here's what they're trying to sell me into buying extra internet service for, so that I can have access to this content or this information or whatever it is. So I'm just guessing here, but I think Apple said, yeah, we need to do everything we can to show people that we're the good guys. So they let it back into the App Store after initially pulling it. And as I mentioned earlier, it's available on Google Play. And to me, this is what we need to do. If we've got organizations in government who say, we're going to decide what's good for the people regardless of what they think. And by the way, I heard a figure recently, and it was something along the lines of 83% of the population in the US is in favor of net neutrality, and the FCC still kind of said, we don't care. We're just going to do the opposite. So, clearly there's some motivation there. There's some pressure, or there's some money, or there's some influence coming from somewhere that's telling them that, hey, here's what we want you to do. Even though your customers, even though the people, the population that you govern doesn't want that, we want you to do exactly the opposite, and we're going to make lots of money for it. Not to mention that a while back, some huge amount of money was invested funded by your tax dollars to build out infrastructure for these ISPs, and it never happened, and they pocketed the money. And I'm going to save that for a separate live stream or video, because I want to go into great detail on that one. So let's jump back here to the comments real quick. Last few years, nothing Apple or Samsung or any of the manufacturers really jumped out. Cosmetics
bit speed incremental increases. Bendable phones will be revolutionary. Forgot to mention, they are saying that the phone that was going to be known as the Galaxy X, the first bendable phone from Samsung, may in fact be the Galaxy Note 9. Now, of course, these are rumors. We don't know that for sure, but that will be interesting. They may be building this foldable screen into the Galaxy Note 9. Not sure if we will see a revolutionary phone, Wayne. Everything that is released is an incremental improvement on whatever is released beforehand. Building on existing idea is safer. Yeah, true. I mean, where's their motivation to make huge leap forwards? You know, you just want to beat what your competitor is doing by as much as necessary, right? I would assume, to increase market share. I mean, that makes sense from a business standpoint. Net throttling just wouldn't be tolerated in Australia. How the hell did America accept it? Well, this is the strange thing, Wayne, and we're seeing at this point, you know, currently we're in an atmosphere where what makes sense and what the people want doesn't really seem to matter in the short term. So for the time being, we're living in an environment where the current administration, big businesses, regulations, you know, you name it, it appears to me that they're testing the boundaries. Like they want to say, let's see how far we can go and do the exact opposite of what everyone wants and find out what happens and, you know, see what they'll put up with. And we've seen a lot of examples of things that are unprecedented, that have you never would have imagined. They've never happened in history before. And people are doing them right now, admitting to it, and in fact doubling down on stupidity. And so far, you know, what's happened? A few people have marched here and there. People have complained. We've got, you know, petitions going on. We've got websites that are dedicated to kind of restoring rights to the people. But for the most part, there is no revolution. You know, there's not a lot of there aren't a lot of options that are realistic at this point in time. So it seems to me, and I'm going to get off this in a second. Sorry, folks. I don't want to get real political on here, but I really get the impression that many companies, many governing bodies, many people are just saying, you know what, let's just go ahead and do this and see what happens. And let's blow up everything else and do the exact opposite of what makes sense and see how long people will tolerate that. That's the impression that I get. I don't know how it happened. Like so many weird things have happened in the last year that I just don't understand them. But yet, here we are, right? Let's see. Reinventing the wheel and having unforeseen issues that go with untested tech. Yeah, there's another concern. I mean, when you want to come out with something revolutionary, you're obviously going to take some chances, right? You're going to invest some money into something and hope that it goes over with the target audience, you know, whoever it is that you're selling it to, which is why I want to bring this in right now. Now, if you guys have been on here, and I know a lot of you have, this is what I have envisioned. I mean, this is the closest thing that I can imagine to what I envisioned, and I was hoping that we would see this. And to me, it was the logical step, okay? This is the big deal. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is Vuzix. It is an augmented reality smart set of sunglasses that you wear. And it's got the battery built in and presumably some sort of link to your phone. And they debuted these things at CES, and this company's stock shot up the moment they started talking about this, having some smart glasses that you put on that don't look ridiculous. You know, I mean, they don't look great, but they're one step closer to being something that is Google Glass without being as weird as Google Glass, if that makes sense. And this is kind of what I've been thinking, that, you know, it's the only thing that really makes sense outside of maybe having holographic images that are right in front of your face. You know, how else do we integrate smart technology, augmented reality, virtual reality in a way that, you know, you don't have to wear this clunky headset that looks ridiculous? Well, this company has made one step closer to that. They showed these off at CES. They were a big deal, obviously, and I expect to hear a lot more about this. Now, I don't expect this to be the final product. I don't think that a lot of us would want to wear something quite like this, but I think they're getting much closer to something that makes sense. You know, a smart interface that you put on and you take off just like that. It's not a contact lens where you have to stick it in your eye and then it's there 24/7, you know, until you go somewhere to remove it.
you put these on and you have your augmented reality in front of you. It can interface with all sorts of different inputs, data, smartphones, Wi-Fi networks, whatever it is. And when you don't want to use them, you just take them off. So I think that this company won't be the final product, but I have a sneaking suspicion that we should keep an eye on how they develop this technology and who is going to be the first big company to acquire them. And I think that this would be the next logical step. When we talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, Samsung, Apple, LG, Huawei, whoever it is it's going to be that comes in with the right amount of money, when this thing gets to the point where they feel like, we can acquire all sorts of patents, all sorts of intellectual property, all sorts of copyright stuff, let's go in, let's step in and buy this company. And I think this is one of probably many others that are competing in this same niche here. I think this is going to be a big deal within the next few years. So I would keep an eye on this. Like I said, don't take my advice as an investor, but this to me is a big deal, and it's exactly, in my opinion, what makes sense as the next step forward. Wearables and implantables are the next step forward from having a physical device in your hand. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is crazy, 10 years ago, this is magic, right? I mean, this is just amazing what this thing does. But now having to hold this thing, not having hands free and having to punch numbers in and everything else. I mean, if you just put it on and there it is, there's all the information, and whether it's voice activated or what's going to be really goofy is they're talking about having this thing respond to head movement. So if you want something, maybe you turn your head to the left or to the right or up or down, and probably anyone watching you thinks that you're having some sort of seizure or something, but they're talking about this thing interfacing with body movements and gestures and that kind of stuff. And I think this is really the future when it comes to wearables, because obviously we need to be able to see what's going on, and how else are you going to get that display in front of your face? This, I think, is going to be the ticket. Again, a little more evolution, but I think pretty quick we're going to have something here that you can just put on your head and do it all. Sound like my beer goggles. They make ugly chicks gorgeous after 5 years. I'm not going to touch that one. Hey, beer goggles work on both ends, though, So if she's had 5 beers, then that works for me. I'm going to get in trouble if I keep talking like that. So that is that. And I think that we had, let's see, do we have one more here on the list? Yeah, I think those were all of my topics. Lucky you, 3 for me. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I wanted to show you a couple things, and I was hoping Harvey would be on, so I'm going to have to acknowledge this later. But I had a subscriber, you guys have seen him on here before, and he sent me this. So I am not typically a smartwatch person, but recently my watch quit. And check this out. This thing, let's see if I can get under the camera, and hopefully you can still hear me. So this thing is pretty darn cool. Obviously, when you turn it up, you can get it to turn on. Well, you got to have your arm down, I guess. You turn it up, the display comes on, hit the button here. We have multiple different types of watch faces that we can put on the thing, right? Okay, I know that's pretty basic, not a big deal, right? But check this out. We've got our weather. We've got our date and time. This will take a SIM card and a micro SD card, so you can expand the storage, if I'm reading this correctly. Oh, I'm sorry, it takes a SIM card, so this will function as a phone. It will also connect to your phone for obvious reasons. Over here, we've got all kinds of different adjustments for the lighting. We got the Bluetooth and stuff, but what really I thought was cool and different about this is that it also has a camera right here. So talk about 007. I can take pictures on this thing. It can tell you the ridiculously few number of steps I've taken, so that'll give you an indication of what kind of shape I'm in. But this thing does it all. So I wanted to thank Harvey, and he's not here today, so I will have to tell him later on. I'm having fun with this smartwatch. I'm not, like I said, typically a smartwatch person, but my watch just happened to break recently. So thank you, Harvey. This is awesome. And I have one more for you all, because I had quite a few people who have asked, when it comes to micro soldering, and I do plan on doing more micro soldering videos. Hey, Nate's not here tonight, is he? I wanted to mention him too, because he actually did a long screw trace repair just recently, but I have to bring that up next week. So check this out. I had a company who contacted me about a different type of microscope. And I've always been a little skeptical about these. I've had students who come through and, I'm using the Amscope that's got the trinocular simulfocal with the extra plug-in for the camera because I like to be able to show people what I'm doing. And I've seen a few different types of microscopes that actually have an external display. So if you can imagine, you've got what you're working on under your camera, and then you have a screen that's separate where you can actually watch what's going on. And of course, my first concern with that is that you lose your perception of depth because you're not looking through a stereoscope, you're looking at a 2D image. So it's a little hard to tell like what's here and what's here, as you get closer and further away from the camera. So I've always been a little skeptical about that. I've never tried one out before, but I had a company who said, hey, we like your micro soldering stuff, and how'd you like to try this out as a camera? So, with that skepticism, I want to check this thing out. I'll be doing a product review on it next week, but I wanted to show you guys and get your opinions and maybe predictions as to how this is going to work out. So I wanted to unbox this during tonight's live stream because I seriously haven't even seen what this thing looks like on the inside. I only have the box, and since I got this camera set up, like I said, if it continues to work, I thought it'd be cool to show you. So let me grab this real quick. And we will switch cameras, and with any luck, you'll be able to see what's going on, and I'll stop shaking the table, which I've been doing a lot here. Okay, so here we go. Let's get that where you can see it. And this is obviously called Andonstar Professional Electronic Products, yada yada, whatever. And this came out of LA. So the good thing was I didn't have to wait for it to be mailed from China, which is often the case when companies want to send me products. So this came from the US. I know that doesn't help you if you're in Australia. Let's see, what do we have here? And hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm going to get a little further away from the microphone here in a second. We have instructions. Who needs those, right? Let's see. Now it looks like it's got a couple lamps here built in. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Oh, and there's a remote. That is interesting. Okay. So I'm sure the setup's real basic. I hope that it has an HDMI out. I'm not going to bother too much with reading the details because mainly I just wanted to unbox this thing, get a look at it, and then ask you what you think I should expect. And then next week, I'll be able to tell you how this thing actually performs. So let's see if we can get this thing out. Come on now. All right, so here's this. And we have pretty much just the remote. And then, yes, it does have an HDMI cable, so that's going to be an HDMI out. We've got a power supply. And then we've got various cables here. And I'm not sure what these do. It looks like this is a power button. And then I assume this is like maybe a zoom in and zoom out. Excuse me. And let's see. All right, let's get this out of here. Andonstar makes some good gear. Okay, good to know because I had not heard of this company and didn't know what to expect. And it was reasonably priced, so it wasn't like super cheap or anything. So I expected it to be, oh, look, there's snacks in here too. That's nice. So let me go ahead and eat these real quick. I don't know why they do that. Oh, I know why they do that, so it doesn't get wet overseas. Okay, so, that's interesting. So if you can see, the display, it looks like, the display kind of rotates and tilts. We've got a couple arms here for the lighting. And then down here at the bottom is obviously where the scope is. Now, my question is going to be how far away can this thing get? Because obviously if we're micro soldering, we need to have plenty of clearance on this thing. And I'm guessing that if I plug this in, it's probably not going to just work right out of the box. So I don't want to waste a lot of your time trying to set this up live today. But I will be doing a review on this in the near future. And if it works, which I'm sure it will, the question is going to be, how effective is this for micro soldering? I mean, it's kind of a small screen. It's not huge. But I don't even know what the specs are on this thing as far as magnification. I would assume they're pretty decent. Let's see if we can at least plug the lights in. Where's the power on this sucker at? Okay, so we have a not standard. We have a spec special adapter here, which is that USB? What is this, Android? This is a little confusing. Buttons likely control the output from the LEDs. That makes sense. Okay. So let's see. What is what here? This is actually like one big cord. Okay, so we have a USB. Wow. So we have this thing right here, which is some sort of control. And it's got 3 different wires coming out of it. It's got a micro USB, this, which is, I assume, for the lighting. And then it's got another USB cable here. So this has got to be... What do you think? Let's see. Oh, okay, so this is going to be the USB, it looks like, up here on the top. That's going to go here. And then we have the power, which is right here. I hope you guys can see that okay. We have the power, which is going to go to the scope itself down here. Right? Well, it looks like it would anyways. Hope I'm plugging it into the right spot. Audio, video out. That's got to be this, right? Nope. Okay, now I'm confused because I have another micro USB here. So I think it's going to make sense for me to go ahead and read the instructions. Like I said, I don't know anything about this scope yet, but I do kind of like these 2 LED lights. That's cool. You know, you can flex them, put them wherever you want. We can lift this up. I know that's hard to see. So this actually moves. If you loosen this little screw here, you can kind of adjust how far away the camera is. And then being able to tilt the display, obviously, that's pretty cool. And it looks like it's got a slot for a memory card, HD out, so this is where the output would be for the HDMI. Audio video out, or AV out, I'm sorry. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to do a little more in the way of figuring this out. Like I said, I don't want to spend all night messing with it now, but we shall see. My biggest question is, can you actually micro solder looking at this thing in 2D? Because I think that might be a struggle, but if it works, I mean, it'd be pretty cool, right? So that's what I have for this week. Let's go back to the comments here, and it will work straight out of the box. Let's see. It might be hard to see if there's a lot of sunlight in the room you're using because it looks reflective. Yeah, good point on that. I'm sure with any kind of LED, we want to make sure that we don't have direct sunlight on it, but I can take care of that. Who else wants to see it set up? Well, it is towards the end of the stream, so if you want to stick around to see this, I certainly don't mind. I just don't want to bore you guys to death. Let's see. The only thing is, I don't think that I can output this to a MacBook, which is what I'm using. So that is my concern. Even if I get it set up, I don't think we'll be able to actually operate the thing. Is it live unboxing for today? Well, it is at the moment, Johnny. I actually went through everything else. Good to see you. I'm assuming you just joined. So I went through a bunch of things earlier, but this is one of the things on my list. I had this microscope come in from Andonstar, I guess it is, and wanted to see what this was all about. So I figured, why not? We'll do it. Let's see. Let's go back to this one. And it looks like... Okay, one of these goes to the top. This does go to the bottom, according to the thing I'm looking at here. That goes down there. And we have 2 others. We have a USB, which goes out, and then to a power supply. And then this actually does go up to the top. So I had that in the right spot. I mean, really, about the only thing I can do with this tonight is probably turn it on. I guess that would be cool, though, right? And then the USB, which is number 6, that is connect switch to the power supply. Okay, so this is going to go to the power. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. Nice long cord. That's cool. All right, so that's plugged in, and we have lights. All right, well, that was easy enough. Now, look at this. Welcome. Hey, you know what's cool about it is I can direct this straight up towards the camera, so I don't have to do a lot of moving around here. Okay, so it looks like it's setting up. We have an image already. All right, well, if you're with me this far, let me go grab another one. Let me go grab something to put under here. Confocal scopes are the future. Let's see if I got a board laying around here real quick. to see my iPhone 6 that I've pulled I don't know how many parts off of already. Let's see if this will work here. Hey, you know what? This could be pretty cool, I gotta say. Now let's get this sucker focused. Where do we want to be roughly? Am I too far or too close? I gotta say, sliding this thing around is a little rough. It doesn't feel super smooth. But once we get it into position, it feels really solid. So just my initial observation here. Now, I don't suspect that we have a zoom feature on this. But, let's see, do we have a zoom? I don't even know. Let's see, maybe this is a zoom. Okay, these buttons. Okay, there's a power button. Okay, so that's for the display. We can turn the display and the lights on, it looks like, with this power button. Yeah, no, there's no autofocus on any of the microscopes I've worked with. There are, however, quite a few different controls on this remote, which, see if they included batteries. Oh, look at that. No batteries. It's one thing I liked about most products now. They seem to come with batteries. This one did not. So we'll need some batteries for that. But you can see, let's see, what did I take? Let me take a look at this thing from the top. Okay, so hopefully you can see that got the shields off this thing. I want to say I took a diode. Wow, let me get a pair of tweezers. I can't even point to this thing accurately. Okay, so this is an iPhone 6, and you can, hopefully you can see, I pulled this diode off right here, off this donor for a backlight repair, among other things. And I actually broke the coil off of this one there because I wanted to see how hard it was to remove, and it's kind of a pain. But other than that, let's see, what does these two buttons here. Oh, I see. That does. Whoever said that, was that playlist? Whoever said that. This is for dimming the lights with the remote. So we have a dimmer built in there, and we have a button here. I know you probably can't see that on camera, but this is for taking a still image. So if I had a memory card in there, oh look at that! It says please insert an SD card. Okay, so that's helpful. Maybe we should bring the camera closer to this. And we have this, which I think is also going to be, what is this? It's not doing anything. There's an arrow down and an arrow. Oh, there is a zoom. Look at that. So it's a little slow, but you can zoom in on this thing just by clicking this arrow. Look at that. That's got some decent magnification. Okay, there's the missing diode I was talking about right there. So I can probably get this looking a little more clear. Let's see. I think I'm out of focus actually, so I didn't take a lot of time getting it adjusted. It's got a little noise at this level, but all in all, not bad. Let's see, can we go in closer? Look at it, says X4, so that appears to be as far as it will zoom, which isn't bad. And if we had this on a bigger screen, I don't expect that it would be too difficult to work with something. Again, the only downside being here that you don't really have any way to tell how far away you are, you know, outside of touch. So there's no perception of depth. But this might actually be helpful. Let's see, what else do we have? We got, where we were checking some caps there. Let's see. Actually, did I take the backlight driver? Yeah, I took the backlight driver off of this also. I want to say, didn't I? No, I didn't. Backlight driver's still there. Diode's gone. Coil's gone. Let's see. Does this have long screw damage? Nope. Nope. Everything looks good there. But obviously, this is not a working phone. So, there you have it. You saw it first. We'll do a little unboxing on this thing eventually. Let's see. Looks like most of their models have built-in screen. The coil is challenging to remove without destroying it. The underfill is super tough. Looks pretty good. Hey, let me show you something, playlist, because I don't know if you've seen this yet. Give me just a second, guys. I need to run over to my box of stuff real quick. See, is this going to be, yeah, it's going to be right in front of my face now. So for any of you who are doing micro soldering repairs, I want to show you something that I think, and in fact, this will be a perfect way to do it, that I think will make your life much easier. If you're not familiar with it yet, there's a website called microsolderingsupply.com. Let's see, can we see that? Microsolderingsupply.com. I am not affiliated with them, but the guy that runs it is really smart, really cool, and he supplies a lot of small parts. His name is Jason. He's got a YouTube channel also. If you look up, I think it's just look up micro soldering on YouTube. You'll see some really cool stuff from him. Well, what he's got, if you remember, the problem with these coils, obviously they're hard to get off in one piece. I would recommend you just expect them to break when you take them off. So if you're working, let's see if we can get it back on camera here. This is actually kind of cool, you know, at least for live streaming. Okay, so the coil that goes there is this big, funny looking block, right? It's like a rectangular shaped thing. It looks like this thing right here. It looks like that little block right there. Well, obviously the problem is that you cannot get underneath it where the contacts are, right? That's always been a problem. Well, check this out. What this guy or someone figured out is that the coils, oh boy, this is going to be really tough to get on camera. The coils don't have to look like that. Let's see if I have one out of the, see if it's even possible to see it on here. Okay, so this is another style coil, which, okay, so you remember, if you've seen these before, these coils, you can actually access the solder points. There's one here, and there's one on the opposite side over here. You can get in there with the soldering iron, and you can solder this down. Well, he sells coils that are compatible with all sorts of, I want to say it's like iPhone 6, 6S, there's like all sorts of different models. They're all the same, and they all have these very accessible solder points underneath the coil that extend out to the side, so they're way easier to replace than those weird looking blocky things that Apple put on there in the first place. So just a heads up, if you're working on backlight circuits, this will make your life way, way, way easier. I bought a bunch of these because I just was like, are you serious? Like, we can, if you've watched some of Jessa's videos, she talks about just kind of windshield wiper repairing the entire backlight circuit. And I'm starting to think more and more that that's really the best approach, because, you know, sometimes you'll replace a filter and you're good, but sometimes you'll replace a filter and it pops again, and we don't know, you know, is it the driver, is it, or you'll have that half, you know, 25 to 30% brightness on the backlight, and that tends to end up being either the diode or the coil, and there's all sorts of stuff in that system, especially on the iPhone 6, that goes out. So if you just go in there and replace all of those components at once, you know, you'll cure any problem that you have, and most likely you'll avoid any returns in the near future where they have that same failure point again. So I'm leaning towards just from now on doing complete backlight replacements instead of just replacing one coil at a time, at least on the iPhone 6 series. Now on the 6S's, I want to, you know, it's funny, I actually fried a coil the other day, like not a coil, I popped a filter the other day, first time ever, smoked it, and it was just going too fast and trying to show something to someone and completely forgot to plug the battery in, or unplug the battery, and you know what happens next, and it was gone. Fortunately, like a 5-minute fix, so that was the good news. It was just that filter that blew out, FL 2024 or something like that. Anyhow, enough of that kind of tech stuff. How much does a microscope cost? That one, okay, I'm glad you have the answer on there, Carl, because I didn't know off the top of my head. They did send me a link for it, but I wasn't sure what the price was. I know it wasn't like some cheapy thing. If I saw this for like $50, I'd be very skeptical, but I know it was in a price range that it seemed like, hey, this might be a legitimate scope, and it doesn't look terrible. So I'm going to try it out a little more, experiment with it and see what it'll do, and then do a complete video review, and I'll put links down in the bottom again, here and there, so that you can check it out if you want. Again, my biggest question is, you know, how difficult is it going to be to micro solder without being able to have that, you know, being able to tell how far you away, you know, 3D view for the most part. So we'll see. Let's see. That is it. Very cool. Yeah, Wayne, if you're not using these coils, I highly recommend you grab at least a dozen of them, because every single backlight where you've got to replace that coil, this will make your life so much easier. No guessing about whether you've heated the board up enough. You know, we used to do the heat and drop where you just keep heating it until you see it turn silver and then you drop it on. This way you don't have to guess. You have to try to move fast. You just set it down, solder it into place, and you're done. And it covers like 5 or 6 different models, so you can use it, across the board for the most part. All right, what else do we have? Friends, that is just about everything that I had on my list. And I think we talked about the S9. We talked about Wehe. We talked about Vuzix, which I really think this is it. This is what I would invest in. And if I could get my money out of Coinbase into GDAX, then I might invest in some different Bitcoins. But every time I open something, it doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. So I'm kind of trapped on that one yet. Haven't heard back from them. Anyone else trading Bitcoin? I know Real World. I know that you are. And I would like some advice from anyone who knows how to make that system work. My money is stuck in Coinbase. It doesn't show up on GDAX. So outside of doing a withdrawal, which I think is going to cost me a bunch of fees, I'm not sure where to go from there. And sent them pictures. They're like, it shouldn't be doing that. Send us some pictures, and I did. And they haven't told, or screenshots. They haven't told me where to go from there. So there it sits. But fortunately, let's see where we're at. I wish I could do a screen capture of this. I think I can. I have my trinocular simulfocal head only supplier 160 plus shipped. What? Where's that? Tell me about this, Wayne. I want to hear about the trinocular simulfocal head for 160 US, and will it attach to my digital camera? Can I get an adapter for that? Because I'm actually very close to buying a second microscope. So I was looking at some options, and I contacted Cherry Chang, whatever, and didn't have the type of communication that I wanted. So if you know someone else, please let me know. I'd be interested to hear about that. Check out High Altitude Investing. Okay, I will do that. That is it just went live? Okay, well then maybe from here I'll jump off and check that out. I am done with Bitcoin and moved on to other altcoins. And excuse me when I say Bitcoin, what I mean is crypto. I keep saying Bitcoin. I'm talking about cryptocurrencies, and I know as a noob to that world, I keep saying Bitcoin, which is not what I'm talking about. I have nothing invested in Bitcoin. I actually bought some Litecoin, and I would like to trade on some other currencies, but I can't seem to get my money out of Coinbase or move it into an area where it's easier to trade with. I am done with Bitcoin. Hey, Patrio Tech Studios, what's going on? Hey, good to see you. We're actually getting ready to wrap up, but we're going to hang out for a little while longer. And I'm probably going to check out High Altitude Investing and see what that's about. We'll see. Would that be if I go and search High? If we seem really casual here, it's because I went through all of the planned content. So we're just kind of on the end of it here and just small talk stuff. Let's see, High Altitude Investing. Okay, he's got 20,000 subscribers. I will check that out. I will definitely see what they have to say. Outside of that, we are just about finished for this evening. So anyone who's watching, if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and post them. I'm going to leave the chat open for a few more minutes, then I'm going to wrap it up. I will be back next Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if that time slot works better for you, or you can just join us for both, that's awesome too. AliExpress. All right, can you get me a link, Wayne, or a description or a brand name so I can look that up? Move your Litecoin to Binance. Makes it super easy to trade. Yeah, that was kind of my plan. I wanted to get to Binance, and my understanding was that if you move your coins from the Coinbase into GDAX, then you can get it into Binance without spending a whole bunch of fees on withdrawing, and that's what I was trying to do. But maybe that won't be an option or a factor. I don't know. I'm going to look into it. But yeah, I was planning to get into Binance, and there's some software out there for, again, I'm a complete amateur at this, but being able to watch the fluctuations and kind of use the Fibonacci sequence to figure out where you think the flags are. I'm really trying to wrap my head around that and understand it and spend a little more time experimenting and see if I have some luck with a very small amount of money, just to test it out, test the waters. Hello, Robert. How you doing? Yep, will fit all C-mount cameras. Okay, I'd love to know where that's from. If you have any more info or a link, Wayne. You're a mod now, so you can definitely link here if you have it by any chance. That would be cool. In the meantime, I will be checking this thing out, and really, if it's only 150 bucks or so, it's probably not a terrible investment. And I have done some micro soldering kind of with one eye. We called, micro soldering like a pirate, because I had an old Amscope where you literally took one of the oculars out and put a digital or a webcam, what do you want to call that, USB camera in the other ocular. So we used to micro solder with one eye open, and it wasn't as easy, but it was doable. So maybe this thing will actually work. I don't know. Go directly to Coinbase, from Coinbase to Binance. Okay, just copy your Coinbase wallet and Coinbase. Okay, well then that's what I'll do. Thank you, playlist, because it appears that I'm stuck in some weird kind of I don't know what limbo between Coinbase and GDAX. So I'll do that because Binance was where I was planning to go. 15 states as of today for the right to repair. Awesome. Good to hear. Yeah, we've made some progress there, and whether or not they're doing it just for posturing, just to make it look like, oh yeah, we're on your side. There are quite a few politicians who are saying, yeah, we need to do something about this. And meanwhile, the FCC supposedly is trying to pass legislation that would block states from being able to reverse the ban, the overturning of net neutrality. But yeah, let's keep that idea alive, and by all means, spread it to people that you know. I don't think a lot of people really understand what's coming. How dark, how bad this is going to get if we don't stop it. We're trying to raise awareness at the same time, and that's part of my mission, is to let people know we have to take action. We have to make those phone calls. If you haven't called your congressperson, your representative, and said, look, I'm a registered voter, this is what I believe, and this is what I want, then there's really nothing there for them. They're obviously going to pander to large corporations who send, get money to them one way or another. But when it comes down to it, your vote does matter. So if we let people know, and I absolutely want to say, I have a number of subscribers that I am constantly reminding about this, that when it's time to go vote, no matter where you live, here's what you need to know about your representatives. Here's what you need to know about your senators, your reps, your congresspeople. This is their stance on net neutrality. And we already know what the people want. We know what more than 80% of Americans want. And, that other percentage, a lot of those aren't even real votes. We figured out that a lot of these comments on the FCC's website weren't even legitimate. They weren't even real people. So we had someone behind the scenes, like in Wizard of Oz, kind of behind the curtain saying, oh, yes, net neutrality needs to go away. It's good for us. No, it's not. I don't think there are too many people that believe in that, other than large corporations and people who are heavily invested in them. So please spread the word. Let people know. You have to get on the phone. You have to call. Visit battleforthenet.com. There are links there. They've actually made it very simple. They'll give you phone numbers. They have pre-written emails. You can just click and forward and put your name on it and say, here's what I want, and you don't have to invest a lot of time in it, but you have to speak up. Absolutely. The issue with Binance is that they have blocked new accounts like Bittrex did. Not sure if it's the same today, but it was as of a week ago. I'll find out. Received the email today. Hawaii and Oklahoma united today. Awesome. Let's see. Binance new use ban was temporary because of the flood of new users from crashing their infrastructure. Oh, we got a link here. The Binance CEO has an interview on YouTube with Bloomberg, which details what's going on. Okay, good to know. Thank you, Wayne. I am going to check out that link and bookmark it right now so that when we get done with the stream, we can check out this. Let's see, let's translate it. I always thought it was Mandarin or Cantonese, but apparently they do refer to the language as Chinese. I didn't think that was correct. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I always thought, no, you don't call a language Chinese, you call it Mandarin or Cantonese. But then even vendors are saying, we speak Chinese. So I'm a little confused by that. But trinocular, okay, cool. Thanks for the link, Wayne. I may go this route because I was getting ready to drop a significant amount of money on another scope. And if this gets the job done for $150, and you said no shipping fee, because if so, I might check it out. That could be a good deal. I definitely need to get another scope. All right. So, net neutrality, Galaxy S9 or Galaxy Note 9. Apple is going to let you turn your phone up to full blast again, to its full potential. And if you haven't checked out the Vuzix virtual reality sunglasses or glasses, whatever you want to call them, you should. I think this is going to be a big deal. I think that in 5 years, everyone's going to be walking around with sunglasses on that allow you to see, access all sorts of information, to see the world in a different way. That's my prediction. What do I know? I'm just a technician. I just fix phones. That's it. All right, folks. Thank you once again for joining me. I hope that you'll come back next week. Same time, same place, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If not, you can always drop in on Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we do it during the day, in the middle of when a lot of people are working. But I have Mondays off, so that is where I am able to do it. I'd like to do it more, honestly. I like to do more live streaming. I just have to make sure there's a demand for it out there. Until then, have a great week or a great rest of the week. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you next time.